Get ready, Staten Island.
The Ferry Hawks host the Hagerstown Flying Boxcars. Tonight at 7 p.m., it's soccer night, and kids glow around the bases postgame. Saturday at 6:30, it's Broadway night with postgame fireworks and Broadway rave. Sunday at 1:30, it's Military Appreciation Day, and the kids run around the bases.
A great day out for the entire family. Kids run the bases after every Sunday home game. Want the best seats all season? Get more Ferry Hawks for only $63. Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats.
Hey, I just Venmo'd you for rent.
Nice. Now I can instantly spend it whether I'm checking out online with Venmo or using a Venmo debit card.
Say more.
More exactly. Because the more you do with Venmo, the more you get. Like earning up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash on a bundle of brands.
So, order more pizza.
The math demands it.
Get the Venmo debit card.
Venmo Stash bundle terms and exclusions apply. See terms at venmo.me/stash terms. Venmo checkout not available at all merchants. Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A.
The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hi, welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Hello,
I'd like
Dick
to
Morris.
begin the show by predicting the future to you, because I have a very clear view of what's going to happen over the next 6 years or 10 years in American politics. It's very clear, and I wanted to outline it to you. It begins with the fact that the economic policies of the conservatives and the Trump administration have clearly and unambiguously worked. Less regulation, less taxation has stimulated economic growth, job creation. Higher tariffs have stopped inflation, and he's been able to accomplish really an economic miracle. That miracle, which will continue because it's a product not so much of Trump's personal actions, but because of the ideology of conservatism and the fact that with control of Congress, he's been able to implement it without any modification, is going to continue. And that is going to increasingly force the northern states, the blue states, into what really you could call the Detroit syndrome, which is that as people leave the state, move out, higher income people leave, lower income people stay, the state raises taxes to try to compensate for it, to try to pay social benefits.
So then more people leave.
To the people who stay. And then more people leave, and taxes go higher, and the migration becomes more pronounced. Detroit, for example, has gone from 1.3 million people to about 700,000 or 800,000 today.
Wow, that's half.
It's half. Chicago has dropped from about 2.5 to about 2.3. New York City, which has the least because of its status as a global city, has lost about 300,000.
That's a lot of people.
And this migration is causing tremendous political changes and will continue to, because it's beginning to take effect now. In 28, it'll take more effect, and in 30 and 32, it'll become dominant. That's first of all because the migration is going to continue, and secondly because more and more of it is going to be reflected in reapportionment. The idea of reapportionment midterm was Trump's idea, and people mocked it. They didn't think it would work, and yet it's been very, very successful. And Trump has gained a total of 10 net points in the reapportionment. People laughed at Donald Trump when he began to push Republican-dominated states to do what Democratic-run states had already done for decades, redistrict their states' congressional seats to their partisan advantage. The usuals among the Republican Party's oh-so smartest assured us that this would backfire, but Trump understood that Democrats had long ago redistricted to within an inch of their lives and the Republicans hadn't. The advantage in that could only go to the GOP. For example, Illinois has 17 congressional seats, 14 by Democrats, but 54% of the Democrats of the households vote Democrat, but they have 14 of the 17 seats. 60% of Maryland votes Democrat, but they have 7 of 8 congressional seats. New York has 26 seats. Democrats hold 21, but only 55% of the state's population. So Trump decided to act like a Democrat, and Democrats were so spooked that Virginia's new Democratic governor, Abigail Spanberger, broke a major campaign promise not to redistrict. She tried, the state's Democrats tried, they tried so hard that they broke the law. Finally, the state Supreme Court put a stop to it. Trump had his own setback in Indiana where squishy Republican state senators refused to redistrict, but as always, Trump got the last word. Most of the state senators lost their primaries to Trump-backed candidates who will undoubtedly redistrict in time for the next round of House races in 28. However you look at it, Trump won the redistricting war by picking up 16 seats to the Democrats' pickup of just 6, a net GOP gain of 10. For that reason alone, as of today, holding the House is not only possible, but based on the latest Cook political report, Republicans have a real shot. But that's only the beginning, because the migration has continued and has become very, very significant.
Of people leaving states.
California, for example, has lost 2 million people. Whoa. New York has lost 1 million people.
What's their amount of people they have there in California?
There are 54 House seats, so I'm not sure how many people.
No, 2 million people.
2 million people left California.
How many people in California?
And you figure that there's about 700,000 per House district. So right now it works out about 3 seats. I don't know, 30-something, 30, 40 million.
Wow.
But they've lost 2 million. And New York has lost 1 million. Illinois has lost 500,000. And those changes are going to cause huge losses of congressional representation. And the decade's only half over. If you project this out to 2030, you can see California losing 4 million, New York losing 2 million, Illinois losing 1 million, and so on. And you figure it's about 700,000 per House seat. Just take 435 congressmen, goes into 350 million people, comes out to about 700,000 per district. So that's about 4 or 5 House seats in California, about 2 to 3 in New York, 1 to 2 in Maryland, all of which will flip. In addition to that, you have the Supreme Court decision that made clear that you cannot use race to protect your redistricting. Mm-hmm. And the result is that in addition to that, about 20 Democratic seats that are now represented by blacks, kept in power only because of gerrymandering, are now going to be competitive. And you figure about 10 of those may go Republican. So when you put that together, you're talking about a major seismic change that's going to start taking place in 26 because there's some reapportionment going on now.
I was just going to ask.
It will accelerate in 28, yeah.
I was just going to ask on that, what is the percentage so far as how many states, areas are redistricting already? What's the percentage? Is it half of them are, or most of them?
5 are redistricting in California, in Florida. 5 are redistricting in Texas. About 10 overall are redistricting because of the Supreme Court decision. Trump is going to pick up about 10 to 15 seats.
So he's going to be all right midterm.
He'll be all right in the midterms.
And that's going to make all the difference in the world, is you being Karnak. Hey, do I have that right? Is it on Johnny Carson? Remember Karnak would predict the future? Karnak.
No.
Someone will call in and tell me if I'm right or wrong there.
But we're basically looking at a gigantic, amazing change. And by 32, when the redistricting from the 30 census kicks in, finally, you're looking there at a permanent shift. You're probably looking at something like a 225 Republican majority in the House.
Wow.
Probably a majority of 30 or 40 seats.
Wow.
And a majority that probably stays for a long time, if not forever.
Well, that's if...
Because it's all based on a correct apportionment of the population. And you see, as more people move out of the blue states into the red states, the population shift continues. The reapportionment continues.
Won't it shift also to the red state on the blue side? If more blues come into a red state, it's going to shift in that direction there.
It will.
But for this thing to work, we have to stay in power.
Yeah,
Republicans have to stay in power for the next 2, 3, 4 cycles.
But we are. And then I think in addition you have the deportations, that there are 3 million, roughly 3 million fewer people in the country. Now, that doesn't affect the vote per se because those people can't vote, but they are counted in reapportionment.
Right.
And that will change the numbers for the party mix. So when you combine the number of people who are leaving the country, the deportations, decreasing the population of the blue states, the out-migration from the blue states to the red states, and the reapportionment based on no racial basis for apportionment, you're talking about a gigantic shift in the House of Representatives. No longer will it be a knife-edge thing of one way or the other. It'll be a heavily and perhaps permanently Republican majority.
But those blues have to go somewhere.
They go to the red states and they change. And they change. In Florida, for example, where there's been massive migration, in Texas, the migration has only helped the Republican Party, not hurt it. They don't bring their ideology with them.
Are you sure about that? Is that how it's going? Because I don't know.
It's how it's going.
Wow.
Whether it'll continue or not, I can't be sure.
But still, if it goes that way now, that's all that matters.
I think it will be. And I think as the trend accelerates, and as people realize that they are leaving the blue states because of taxes and because of Democratic policies, you're going to see an increase in that. So I believe that in 26, we're going to win because we have the advantage in reapportionment. In 26, we're going to win by more because race can't be used to disguise that. You can't have racially drawn districts. In 26, we're going to win because the Trump programs have been so effective in stimulating economic growth and have given a real bias toward the red states.
Yeah, but people don't get complacent because the Democrat machine, they're lethal. They're nuts. So they're still going to work at certain things to win. So we can't sit back and say Dick Morris said, we're going to win, we're going to win, we're going to win.
Well, don't blame me.
I've done it. If people don't go to vote because it's a Knicks game, we're going to win. By the way, Knicks congratulations to the Knicks.
Knicks come from behind all the time.
Oh man, so we are now, right?
3 games where we won. And then 3 of the
amazing.
games
They were
we
down
came
30,
from way behind. Yeah,
30 points. That's
unheard. But let me continue with my point.
Okay.
I think that these changes are enormous, and they're coming in the future. Being able to win the 26th election is the key, because that will permit the reapportionment. It'll permit the House to stay Republican. It'll stop the Democratic noise about impeachment and other stuff that will be going on. And you're going to see the gradual shift in population that will accelerate because the blue states will have to raise their taxes and the red states will keep them low. And people will see that they should move to the red states. That shift is going to continue. California's already lost 2 million people. Probably it'll lose 4 or even 5 by the time the census takes place in 2030.
Wow.
And that would be just an enormous, enormous change in the reapportionment. And then all of that builds on itself. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Or snowball.
Snowballs, yeah. And I think that's what's going to go on in this country. So I believe 26 will be a Republican year. I think it will be the first of a series of Republican years, and will leave America totally different than it is now.
Oh, I hope you're right. I know you're right. I know you're so close to being spot on, but I really hope that comes to fruition.
It
So
is.
I'm going to call you Karnak.
Yeah,
And get
okay.
you a big glass ball,
right.
you know.
Okay.
But I'm going to go to Home Depot and get one of those glass things that you hang from the ceiling. It's not going to be a real crystal.
American workers grew more confident in May, even as their expectations for inflation declined. According to the Federal Reserve, New York's monthly survey, the perceived chance of voluntarily losing a job in the next 12 months dropped 2.6%, the best reading since February 23. The increase was across age, education, and income groups. Voluntary quit expectations are widely regarded as a measure of worker confidence, because workers are typically more willing to leave the security of an existing job when they believe they have attractive alternatives. The New York Fed describes the measure as the expected quit rate. So,
What is voluntarily quit expected? People that just quit their
take
job?
this job and shove it.
Shove it, really?
Yeah, right.
Oh, my God.
And you now have 2.6% who say that they are likely to quit their job, which is great. It means that they believe there's another one coming.
Oh, that's how you're looking at it.
It's that they believe that they're not in a tight labor market, that they don't have to cling to a job they don't like. They don't have to work on Maggie's farm no more.
They got to get their Jamaican man. They all have 18 jobs. There was a great skit on Living Color. Jamaican, the one comes, so you lost your job. Yeah, I only have 14 jobs now. Whatever they go on. It was great. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we got more skits to talk about.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The biggest stage in world soccer is days away, and every goal changes everything. And now FanDuel's giving you a reason to root for every single one. Introducing Every Goal Pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. Oh, that's right. More goals means more bonus bets, and all you have to do is turn on your token. Visit FanDuel.com and get started now. Let there be goals on FanDuel.
21 plus select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. 18 plus DCKYWY. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-MY-RESET. 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/chat. Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org. Call 800-327-5050. Massachusetts. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 877-770-7867. Louisiana.
Visit FanDuel.com. Get started now. Let there be goals this summer on FanDuel.
On June 26th, summer belongs to the Super.
Your powers are going to start kicking in right about now.
This does not look like this is going to end well for you guys.
Your savage, I knew it. Supergirl arrives.
What's Superman like? He sees the good in everyone. And I see the truth. We haven't been formally introduced.
DC Supergirl, only in theaters June 26th. Get tickets now. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.
The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, welcome back to the Dick Morris Show with Doug DePiro. Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show.
Oh, my God.
Not with anymore. And well, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
So, we were talking about reapportionment and Democrats leaving New York and all the different areas. Well, they want to leave the country. A poll shows many Democrats would rather live in a different country and wave goodbye to the United States of America. The news coming is more in the party view socialism favorably. Can you believe that? The Elon University, is that Elon Musk? Or what is this Elon University? YoGov America 250 National Survey. I don't know what this means. That was performed between April 30th and May 4th. Asked respondents, is there any other country on earth you would rather live in than the United States today? To which 55% of Democrats said yes. 55% said yes.
The moon was not given as an option.
38% of independents said yes, while 10% of Republicans gave the same answer. So, really, 55% of Democrats rather get out of this country. You know what? Why don't you take, and they hate the flag too. Let's go to Roxana on the rocks. We'll talk about today is Flag Day, right, Roxana?
Hi, guys.
Hi, Roxana.
Hello, Roxana.
Okay, so our flag does not fly because the wind moves it. It flies with the last breath of each soldier who died protecting it. Yes, today is Flag Day, observed annually June 14th. The American flag is far more than dyed fabric. It is a profound emblem of our nation's history, the right it protects, and the ultimate price of liberty. In 1777, the Continental Congress approved this day the Stars and Stripes as the first national flag of the United States. Out of respect to the U.S. flag outlined in the Federal Flag Code, 3 things should never be done: letting it touch the ground, using it as clothing or drapery, or flying it upside down, representing sign of distress. Burning the American flag is considered a profound disgrace because our flag functions as a sacred symbol of national identity, unity, and military sacrifice. And so here we are. While the act is deeply offensive, the tension surrounding it is amplified by a unique paradox. The very Constitution that unites our country legally protects an individual's rights to destroy its most revered symbol. Intentionally burning as a form of protest is viewed as a major disgrace. May we never get numbed by this act of disrespect. Personally witnessing such feels emotionally painful to me and to many others. I feel for every American who gave their lives. With our country so divided and our 250th anniversary approaching, I imagine there will be those who use these laws to show their extreme hatred of America. I pray somehow this will not be so. However, I doubt they let this opportunity to pass to degrade such emotional symbolism. A little story, nicknamed Old Glory, was done so by a 19th century sea captain from Salem, Massachusetts. His name was William Driver. In 1824, he received a large American flag as a gift from his mother and local young women. So he proudly declared, "I name her Old Glory."
So that's where that comes from.
Stuck, and Old Glory, the original flag, survived the war and was donated by the family to the National Museum, Smithsonian, where it still remains to this day. And interesting enough, this morning, I asked a few elderly veterans, what's the first word that comes to mind when you visualize our flag? And they were quick to answer, and each replied without any hesitation, one word: freedom. And so it is. So now more than ever, this is the time to proudly display our beautiful American flag.
Absolutely.
Oh, bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And happy
Roxanne.
Flag Day.
Happy
Yes.
Flag Day to you. You know,
Thank you, Dick.
the history of
about
the
me?
development of the flag is really significant because at the time that it was proposed and adopted, what'd you say, 1777? We were not one country. We were 13 independent states who had decided to leave Britain.
Colonies.
Yeah. The resolution that led to the July 4th signing of the Declaration of Independence by Richard Henry Lee was these United Colonies are and ought to be independent states. And that's what the deal was, that Maryland, New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware,
Connecticut
would each become independent countries, independent states. And the idea that they would be welded together as one country,
united,
was not really clear yet.
Really? Oh, we didn't think that at
well,
that point?
we knew that at some point there'd be a confederation. The Continental Congress decreed that there would be a common army.
So that's kind of
But ultimately, it was a new thing. And it was only Washington in the Continental Army that was able to really create a sense of national unity, a sense that the New Yorkers could die for Massachusetts freedom and so forth.
Wouldn't want to do that now, but...
And you know, Dick, I did have it in there, but it was going to take too long because they don't know if it's the truth or if it's just something that's become a story. Although there was a Betsy Ross in Philadelphia, the saying goes that George Washington went with a private group to ask her to, from his drawings, sort of a draft of the flag, to sew one, which she did with the stripes, and I think it was 5 stars at that time. Instead of 6 points, 5 points. But whether that's a truism or not,
I don't know. But the fundamental point is that this country was not united back then, and it was only by the action of the Congress and of Washington in the war that it was united. The reason Washington became 1777.
And that's when Washington
assumed command of the Continental Army in 1777.
Right.
And at that point, the reason he got the command, the big reason, was that he was from Virginia, and the war at that time was in Massachusetts, Bunker Hill and Breeds Hill, and the Congress and the founding fathers decided to show the national unity by having a Virginian command the army. And it was Betsy Ross and the American flag that ultimately created the symbol of national unity, and that's why it's the stars and the stripes. It's not like Brazil's flag, for example, or Japan's flag, a rising sun, or the planet as a whole.
13 stripes for the colonies.
It's a celebration of national unity, and the national unity was so important then. That's right.
Very, very important. And she went on to do flags and banners, and she did all the embroidering for George Washington and the troops. So she had a big part, regardless of that part of the story.
Who was she? Where was she from? Who was
Philadelphia?
No, I'm saying, was she somebody's wife, or how did they know of her, or how did was she look? I'm curious about that. Was she, a seamstress and like my mother made all the baptism dresses for my daughters and communion dresses. She was the Betsy Ross.
Yeah, she was a seamstress in Philadelphia, and she was well known. She did a lot of different things, so they went to her. But she continued through the war to do all kinds of different sewing for the troops, banners, flags. Yeah, she was.
We've got to find out how they mass produced them. Did she get like 100 people with needles?
Good question.
All right, Rock. Thank you so much. That was really good. And of course, it spurred
Happy Flag Day.
And it spurred Dick Morris to tell us something. Well, thank you, Hans. Very great. Thank you.
So the Supreme Court has just tossed a ruling or reversed.
That was upheld Biden era. No, the Supreme Court tossed a lower court's ruling that had upheld Biden era's regulations on gas furnaces and commercial water heaters, which opponents argued were overreaching and would have banned various gas applications from being sold. In other words, Biden, like he did with his mandates with the electric car and this and that, said you can't use gas, and therefore you're burning, to have heat.
Of the climate change hoax.
No. Global warming, Dick.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're a couple of years later. Climate change. Oh, okay. So I think, so tell me about...
Well, the High Court announced its decision in an order last Monday, sending the case back to the D.C. Court of Appeals for quickly vacating the appeals court ruling in November of 25. The ruling comes as the Trump administration already had repealed several Biden administration controversial appliance rules and regulations since returning to the White House last year. So this is another of the changes that Trump has brought about and reversing the whole idea of in the Biden administration.
All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, We got some more stuff we're going to talk about.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
At first, I didn't think it was real. I woke up to this blinding light, and I was transported to another place. Pluto TV. Then I heard a voice.
Come with me if you want to live.
There were thousands of movies and shows, and they were all free. The truth is ours. It's just so beautiful.
On Pluto TV, free streaming of Terminator 2, Fringe, Arrow, The 100, and The X-Files may cause excitement, loss of sleep, and sudden belief in extraterrestrials. No credit cards or alien encounters necessary. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
This episode is brought to you by Versed. Guys wear that guys wear. This Father's Day, Versed has something for dads who can activate vacation mode anytime, anywhere. The Versed Resort Collection. Versatile enough for a tropical getaway or a well-earned staycation. For dads who turn a grill into a buffet with the click of the tongs, a backyard into a water park with just a sprinkler, and are definitely not asleep on the couch. They're resting their eyes. Versed. Fit for dads. Only at Dick's.
The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Trump has called for Thune to fire the Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough over the Save America Act. The parliamentarian of the Senate is selected by the majority of the Senate, and simple majority is needed. And they had chosen 10 years ago a woman named Elizabeth McDonough, who was supposedly nonpartisan, non-political. But Trump called for Thune to fire her immediately, arguing that she's preventing Republicans in the upper chamber from passing the Save America Act. She determined last week that the Save America Act did not comply with the Senate's Byrd Rule, which determines what legislation is eligible to be included in a budget reconciliation package that can pass with a simple majority vote. Trump said Thune should immediately fire the parliamentarian, who treats Republicans and everything that they stand for, he said, horribly. We've every right to change her, and we should do so immediately. As long as she's there, we will never get our desperately needed SAVE Act approved and put in full force. The Save America Act is a nationwide voter ID bill that requires people to present proof of citizenship to register to vote and requires Americans to show ID when voting.
You know, every time I hear anyone talk about this, especially us, it's just common sense.
Yeah.
It's just common sense. You need ID to vote.
Let me explain what's going on. There is, as you know, a filibuster in the Senate so that you can have unlimited debate. And but with 60 votes, you can shut the debate and you can force a vote. Senator Byrd, Richard Byrd.
Wait, with 60 votes, you could shut the filibuster.
Yeah, shut the debate, the filibuster,
and
force a vote. So Richard Byrd, the senator from West Virginia,
the KKK dude,
20 years ago, said, "Hey, listen, the budget deficit is so large and the national debt so large. We need an expedited procedure to be able to pass budget bills so we can cut the deficit." And he said, okay, I think that we should say that if there's a fiscal bill that involves fiscal policy, revenue, or expenditure, it can pass with no filibuster. And that passed, and that became what was called the Byrd Rule. But the issue came up.
In other words, you can't have a filibuster when it has to do with financials.
With budget, yeah.
With budget.
But then the question came up, what has to do with the budget, which is what is applicable. So the Senate appointed a parliamentarian, Elizabeth McDonough, to make that decision. And she ruled in a couple of cases, and her rulings were largely accepted. But now she says that the SAVE Act does not fall into that category. Trump said, of course it does. It relates to the fundamental issue of who represents us and are they legitimate and who voted for it and so on. But her ruling stands. And now it requires...
hold on. That it wasn't financial. It's a voter ID. Trump's saying the people that vote the right legislation in, and they form laws and whatnot that give us money or whatever happens there.
And
Is that
therefore
where
it's
is that the argument?
That's the
that
argument.
Okay.
So, but what's going on now is that Trump has called on McDonough to be fired. And because of that, and because of the threat of that, the Senate is now disregarding her ruling. You don't have to follow it. And they're saying that, no, the SAVE Act can be included in a reconciliation
Are they
bill.
setting all kinds of precedents right now?
Yeah. They are.
To Senate to do that with the parliamentarian, blah, blah,
Regardless
blah.
of the parliamentarians' rule.
Okay.
I don't know if McDonough's been fired or they just
I think it's
disregarded her.
McDonough. I'm not sure.
But in any case, they are not following a ruling. So the result is the SAVE Act is now included in the third budget reconciliation bill. And normally there's only one reconciliation bill per presidency. In fact, sometimes there isn't any. But Trump has done it 3 times. This is now the 3rd time. And he's doing it to get funding for ICE and for Homeland Security through the end of his administration, through the end of his term, not just a year.
Sure.
And the Senate is going along with that. And he's saying, as part of that, I want the SAVE Act included. So it looks like the SAVE Act will be included.
Wow, that's great.
And it looks like we will be protected against that kind of voter fraud.
And it also looks like we'll get the midterms, too.
Yeah.
But
well,
let me ask you this. It's a little off on what we're really talking about, but this parliamentarian, does this kind of set a precedent for making her a lame duck? You know what I mean?
no,
Does
she
this
just gets fired.
No, but does it weaken?
Weakens her.
Does it weaken the parliamentarian
power
position?
Because it's entirely voluntary.
And it's a single person.
Yeah.
It's not like it's voted.
And the Republicans have said, oh, don't weaken her power, don't get rid of her.
Which they just did.
There'll be somebody worse coming in. And Trump is now saying, no, we're going to control the Senate. We need to get rid of her, and we need to pass the SAVE Act now.
Do you think they could do this parliamentarian thing? 9 people, 11 people, more than one person.
No,
and they have to kind of vote on it.
But we can weaken the power, and I think that's what's happening here.
That just did happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So Trump-backed Steve Hilton advances to the general election for California governor.
Yeah.
Conservative commentator Steve Hilton is headed to California's gubernatorial general election, facing off against Xavier Becerra, former Biden's Health and Human Services Commissioner.
Hilton, endorsed by President Donald Trump, received 25% of the vote in the open primary, coming in second behind Becerra, who garnered 27.9% of the vote, according to the Associated Press. The outlet called the race on Tuesday evening, 1 week after the election, with 88% of the vote counted. Hilton beat out billionaire Democrat Tom Steyer for the general election spot.
And that's important. Tom Steyer is originally from Pennsylvania, I think, and he's a quadrillionaire, and his focus is climate change, and it was his big issue.
Oh, climate
and he
change.
ran for president based on that. And then he migrated to California, where he may have been there from the beginning, and he decided to run for governor, also based on climate change.
I want just one thing. Do you know what his percentage of vote was when he ran on climate change? That would be the percentage of idiots.
Yeah,
that
well, in California, it's 22% right now.
he got 22%.
And Hilton took a victory lap, saying change is coming, and bringing a broad critique against the Democratic administration, against Gavin Newsom, on homelessness, on all of these issues. And it's very significant. I think that there is some chance that Hilton may win the governorship
you
of California.
imagine that? That would be unbelievable.
Well, Schwarzenegger was governor. He was a Republican.
He was on the left a little bit, wasn't he? But listen, the U.S. probe finds 101 more staffers for UNRWA Gaza Relief Organization, Hamas soldiers. Check this out. The chief oversight body responsible for monitoring American foreign assistance has unearthed evidence that an additional 101 staffers at the embattled United Nations Relief and Works Agency, that's the UNRWA, participated in October 7th terror attacks and are affiliated with Hamas military wing, according to this investigatory report transmitted to the State Department. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So we really are near getting Ellison and Waltz convicted criminally for the waste and fraud and abuse that they allowed.
Yeah, Vance referred Minnesota Governor Tampon Tim and State Attorney General Keith Ellison, I got to find a name for him, to the Justice Department for criminal fraud investigation involving social service programs. Oversight reports concluded that Minnesota state leaders were aware of fraud concerns for years, but failed to take available steps to halt the payments or remove questionable providers from government programs. So Tampon, he's gone though, right?
Well, no, yeah, but he's term limited, but now he may be in jail. And there's not much term limits there.
They could be.
Yeah, he's suddenly for term limits.
He won't need those tampons
parole
anymore.
Yeah. But
he'll get pregnant.
But the significant thing about this is that it criminalizes a governor that permits this fraud to continue.
Horrible.
It's not just a question of fraud, not just a question of something that he needs to prosecute. He can be prosecuted.
Plus,
for permitting it to happen.
It wasn't like a couple of $100. It was like $9 billion. Wasn't it in that kind of range?
Well, what happened was that they let the Somalians into Minnesota and deliberately put them in one district, Omar's district.
Right. That's Obama. Obama had everything to do with that.
And they have such power that they really controlled the state. And they used the Medicaid fraud as kind of a private kitty, and they distributed the money to the Somalians. They took the fraud, they pocketed it, and the government got the votes. And now, because of this move by Vance, he's going to be criminally prosecuted for this waste.
Oh.
This is the first time a governor has actually been criminally prosecuted for waste, fraud, and abuse under his administration. It's really precedent-setting.
Well, I'm still, like I said before the show, how come we don't see handcuffs on people still, but...
Well, now you might see them.
Well, we keep saying that.
Yeah.
I don't want to see this thing happen.
Texas has now overtaken California as the new capital of the Fortune 500. According to Fortune magazine, in recent years, Texas's anti-regulation and low-tax policies have attracted companies including Tesla, McKesson, and Oracle to move their home bases to the states. Again, this shift that I talked about at the beginning of this show, which will ultimately show up in the House apportionment, is causing such enormous changes. And I think, and you're just looking at them here.
I like this story. Blockades of the Strait of Hormuz push U.S. exports up in April as trade deficit shrinks. This is good. U.S. exports of goods and services increased 2.6% in April to $327.1 billion, according to data released on Tuesday by Commerce Department. The trade deficit shrinking to $56 billion, a dip of 1.2% over the previous month. So, go, Dick. Expand.
This again shows that Trump's policies are working. That the tariffs he imposed are shrinking the trade deficit. And even with the blockages of the Straits of Hormuz, U.S. exports are up as the trade deficit drops.
So he's the true Karnak.
Yeah, right.
The future.
Absolutely.
In other words, he does things in his mind like a guy building in New York, and he's got all kinds of people. You have everyone that you have to deal with when you build a giant building in New York. You got the laborers, concrete guys, carpenters, everyone. You have to know how to get these guys to do stuff. That's how he's looking at everything. And now with Iran, he deep down just has a good feeling. He works on probably, and I don't know this, but I imagine he works more on his gut than he does with all the advice he gets from everyone.
Well, yeah.
I mean, he gets advice from all generals and great people.
But his gut is very good.
That's what I'm
in
saying.
fact, he's a little bit like Reagan, who spent years honing his ideology, getting his message down, thinking about its application in the speaking circuit for GE, where he went all over the country for General Electric as their spokesman. Then
Reagan did?
Yeah.
I guess.
That was how he made a living.
Yeah, I don't
then
remember.
he ran for governor of California.
Right, that I remember, yeah.
In California and in the GE circuit, he really refined his ideas. And Trump has spent enough time out of power thinking about being president in a decade before. And he's really developed a comprehensive ideology that I think is very significant.
Yeah.
Now, Americans prefer capitalism to socialism by 4-1. This from McLaughlin and Associates. By 63 to 15, he said to Americans, would you choose free market capitalism over big government socialism? And by 63 to 15, 4-1, Americans voted for it. Democrats were much closer. And in fact, some polls have shown the Democrats prefer socialism. But again, we're talking about this tremendous disconnect between the history of the country and what's happening economically now and the ideology that is taught in the schools. And that disconnect is ultimately going to really structure a huge amount of federal policy.
Well, you got the dichotomy of 4 years, not even 4 years ago, Biden and Obama before that, and then Trump, and you see things happening and money in your pocket and gas pricing. By the way, gas is going down, not where I live.
No, but it's going to crash with the Iran deal that is offing, not today, but is going to happen, is going to send those prices crashing down.
Yeah, crashing down to what? $80 a barrel?
Well, gas was at $3.19 a gallon before we went to war in Iran. Then it went up to $4.50 a gallon.
I paid $6 this morning.
Then it dropped from $4.50 to its current level of about $3.90.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once a peace deal is signed, it'll be down to $3.50, probably back down to $3.10.
Even though these oil guys don't hack it up, they leave it up there for a while.
Yeah.
While the barrels are coming down, they're still making a nice profit.
Okay, going to a break now. When we come back, how Trump's new law will direct voucher money to public schools.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
One crunchy bite of a Hershey's Cookies and Cream Bar, and I'm taken right back to college move-in day. I was a little overwhelmed by the newness of it all. Boxes were everywhere. I needed a break from unpacking. But just as I was able to take a breath and open my Hershey's Cookies and Cream Bar, my new roommate Rachel walked in. I offered her a piece, but she said no. Then after a beat, she said, actually, those are my favorite ones. We laughed. The ice was broken, and we've been friends ever since.
Hershey's. It's your happy place.
When you're taking on the tough jobs, gear up with Venom Steel Gloves and defend your hands from grime, grease, and muck. They're 70% thicker than common disposable gloves with heavy-duty 2-layer nitrile protection, including a black outer layer and a white inner layer that provides chemical and rip resistance. Great for all your painting, plumbing, automotive, and DIY projects.
The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Dick, we got to talk about that a little bit, this peace deal. First of all, Trump's not going to let them stall, but I just see them constantly, okay, let's sign the thing, yeah, okay, bye-bye, okay, hello. Yeah, and they stall for a week.
They'll stall. But the important point is to see that the range of their stalling and the range of their disobeying the deal is narrowing considerably.
Yeah, right.
The deal is probably going to require Iran to commit not to have a nuclear weapon, which it's never done before,
and
to
eliminate all plutonium,
and to provide
uranium.
what Trump calls nuclear dust.
Yeah, right.
The enriched uranium be given,
which is impossible to know
given
what
to the
they
United
have.
States or given to Iran, but under international supervision to be diluted and to be disposed of. So I think that we don't know, and we will know in a couple of hours what the deal says. But I think it's pretty decisive.
Do you remember when Hussein, the inspectors would call? Oh, yeah, you can bring the inspectors, and he goes, "Get out of here, turn around."
Yeah, right.
They didn't even let him go in the
right.
building. See, now I don't know this for a fact, but I know deep down that Trump's saying, "You're not doing this. Not one time you're going to turn our inspectors away." He's got to be saying that because then end of deal.
Well,
I don't see
one
how
of the big
this thing is
reasons
gonna
that
work.
Trump has been so successful in negotiating with Iran.
He doesn't bluff.
He doesn't bluff, but more importantly, there's a vulnerability that he's developed, that he's spotted, that is not widely reported in the press, but you and I have reported on it. Tehran, Iran, is running out of water. They've had a 5-year-long drought. And they literally are losing water.
And didn't he just blow up the
and
water?
And he blew up a desalinization plant in his last missile strike. Now, the UN went crazy and said, oh, that violates the rules of war because you're targeting civilian infrastructure. And he said, oh, sorry, we made a mistake.
Oops.
But the point is that he made clear that we did blow up that facility and that we can do it anytime we want.
Oops.
So a combination of threatening to wipe out their power plants, which they've done, and also threatening the reality of bombing the desalinization plant, I think has sent a message to Iran that their very survival is at stake here.
We ain't messing around, pal. That's basically it.
Now, in the big, beautiful bill that Trump passed, there was a provision that said that money in the bill could go to voucher scholarships to have alternatives to public education. And you could use voucher scholarships to fund private schools, parochial schools, and even homeschooling. Trump just announced that public school parents will be able to spend these funds on after-school tutoring or supplemental special education services. The Trump program, known as the Education Freedom Tax Credit, was signed into law last year, and it represents a new, potentially bipartisan framework for federal education policy. Still, there remain fierce critics of the plan within the Democratic establishment. Randy Weingarten, the influential head of the American Federation of Teachers, said the use of public dollars for private voucher schemes remains anathema. But so far, Hochul in New York and Pottis, I forget his name, the governor of Colorado, have both agreed that they will participate in this program. So gradually the Democrats are flagging and saying, no, we're going to participate in this program.
Hochul said she will?
Hochul said she will participate.
She's looking to be governor.
Yeah, I think she is. And when this is fully adopted, which I think it will be soon, it really will mean a vast transformation away from state-run public schools to voucher system-based private and parochial schools.
Do you think that's ever really going to happen?
Yeah, I think
really
you have 30 states now that have agreed to participate, and that'll raise the pressure on the others, and they'll all ultimately have to. Because the alternative is you lose the money. If they don't participate, you can't use the money for something else. You just lose the money.
You got to allocate it to that, and that's it.
And I think the reason that the Republicans in Congress passed this law the way they did was to tempt governors and legislators into disregarding it and losing control of their states as a result.
Get off the pot.
Yeah, that's
pretty
right.
much. Like either do it or you lose. You snooze, you lose.
So we're going to break now, and when we come back, Doug will talk about Plattner, the Nazi who won the Democratic primary in Maine.
The Nazi.
And I'm very relieved that, who was it who said that he's 99.9% sure that Plattner is not a Nazi?
Oh, Biden's son.
Biden's son.
Hunter
Biden said that.
I'm 99.9% he's not. What does that mean, you moron? Even to have him on, it's embarrassing. The whole family's embarrassing.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. You know, Doug asked a good question, which is the U.S. and Iran most likely will sign a deal later today. How do we know it'll be enforced? What will the U.S. do to enforce it? Remember when Saddam Hussein threw inspectors out of Iraq? And ultimately we had no enforcement mechanism. This is a totally different situation. We have destroyed the Iranian Air Force. We have destroyed their air defenses. They cannot stop a navy. They cannot stop a propeller plane from flying over Iran, much less a jet with fighter equipment. And Trump is sitting there with his finger on the button. And if Iran backtracks on this deal or doesn't do what he says, he simply pushes his finger on the button and the U.S. bombs. And then he can halt it, he can continue it, he can target it, he
I
can
bet
direct
that
it.
is somewhat in the language.
But
somewhere.
That capacity to bomb or to stop bombing or direct the bombing is so enormous, and the U.S. ability to do so totally unmolested without any threat to our aircraft is so incredible that it does create an enforcement mechanism that ultimately will work.
And like I said earlier, he doesn't bluff.
By the way, while I'm here, let me talk about something else. When Trump went to China, one of the things he did was he got China to agree not to agree to a Russian request, which was to do a gas pipeline from China to Russia. Russia had asked China to let it build a pipeline that would take Siberian gas and funnel it to China, and would free China from the need to be dependent on the U.S. for natural gas. Trump persuaded Xi not to do that. He persuaded Xi to turn down the Russian offer and to refuse to allow a pipeline to be built.
I'd like to know how he did that.
Which basically means that China will be codependent with the U.S. on us for liquefied natural gas. And he probably did it by undercutting the price. I'm not sure how he did it, but he did it.
Wow.
And the point is that China now cannot get its natural gas from Russia. The pipeline was vetoed. And ultimately, remember in the 90s, Trump was opposing the pipeline that sent Soviet gas to Eastern Europe and Germany. Now he's killed the pipeline that would have sent Russian gas to China. And he's increased really the extent of U.S. and Chinese cooperation, but what it really is China being dependent on the U.S. for natural gas.
Wow, what I'd like to know exactly how he did that.
I know
what is his?
We won't know for many years what he did, but he did something, and it's a gigantic, huge change. Now
Hold on. Maybe out of office we sit with them in Mar-a-Lago and say, by the way, boss, how did you do that? I'm going to ask him that.
Well, by then it'll be apparent, but it's not now. Okay, so the Republicans now control the Senate with 53 seats. And the Democrats want to take that away.
And first of all, the Democrats have no shame. This Platner guy, he wins the Democratic Senate.
Yeah, but
primary.
Let me just set the context. For them to take the Senate, they have to flip several currently Republican-held seats.
2, right? Not several.
2.
I mean, not several.
3, actually. But because we have the vice president, so 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, one of them is Maine, where Susan Collins is the senator. And it looks like they will not be able to do that because they nominated this crazy guy, Graham Platner.
Graham Platner won the Maine Democrat primary for the Senate on Tuesday, setting up a high-stakes race against Susan Collins. Platner, an oyster farmer and former chair of the planning board in small town of Sullivan, has little political experience but has drawn hundreds of people to rallies around the state. He has also faced a string of controversies, that have been the focus of attacks from his rivals. Democrats see Maine as a top opportunity to flip a GOP-held seat. It's only the state with a competitive Senate race where voters supported Democrat Kamala Harris over Donald Trump in 24. Old-line comments made by Plattner, which he appeared to endorse political violence, dismiss rape in the military, and criticize both police officers and rural America, surfaced last year. He's also faced questions about the skull and crossbones tattoo that looks like a Nazi symbol. It is a Nazi symbol. Plattner said he got the tattoo on his chest during a night of, I was drinking, I was all out of it in Croatia. He has maintained that he was unaware until recently that the image had been associated with Nazis, and he's since covered the tattoo with a different design. Yeah, I can imagine. Probably a Ku Klux Klan suit. More recently, he went on a defense amid reports that he previously exchanged sexual explicit text messages with several women while married. Plattner hasn't directly denied the existence of those texts, but instead criticized the aide who talked to who ratted him out. Criticized the rat who talked to the news outlets and accused the media of running gossip. The New York Times last week reported about his relationships with previous girlfriends, some of whom described him as volatile and insulting. One woman said Plattner twisted her arm during an argument and locked her in a room. Oh, my God. Plattner's campaign disputed the allegation.
So Plattner is not going to beat Collins. That's one seat they're not going to get.
Why? The Democrats don't care about any of this stuff.
Yeah, but the voters in Maine do. And then you have Georgia, where there's a Democratic seat, John Ossoff, and the Republicans are about to nominate Collins, who is a good candidate who's going to defeat him. And that's going to be, so that'll be.
But she's a rhino across the board. But
but it doesn't matter.
Like
she's going to vote Republican to organize.
Right.
And the Senate will be a clear flip from a Democrat to a Republican. And in North Carolina, we have an excellent chance at keeping the seat vacated by Tom Tillis, because the governor, Roy Cooper, is implicated in having pardoned the guy and released from prison, the guy who killed that Ukrainian woman on a train platform in Charlotte, North Carolina. When the court said that we had too many people in jail in North Carolina because of COVID, he released 3,500 inmates, and one of whom was the guy who went back out and killed that girl.
That was in the car. It wasn't on the platform, was it? Wasn't it in the car? He was behind her.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But the point is, those three seats, a pickup in Georgia and a keep in North Carolina and Maine, guarantee that the Senate remains Republican.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
Probably by 54 votes this time.
Wow. President Trump on Wednesday morning declared Iran the bully of the Middle East. He said Iran has to pay the price for failing to reach a deal with the United States.
Which they will today.
Yeah, we're going to fight. Right. That's right. This is a story from 2 days ago. Right. Much of it, this is what Trump said, much of it, like their Navy and Air Force, doesn't even exist anymore. They have been completely defeated. Iran is all talk and no action. The bully of the Middle East is dead. Trump has repeatedly insisted Iran must agree to a deal that permanently prevents it from obtaining a nuclear weapon while curbing its ability to threaten U.S. allies in the region. Trump suggested he may be prepared to escalate pressure further if Iranian leaders continue delaying. Well, that's just as important as if they back off next week.
When you think about it, Doug,
I just really believe this, Dick.
The ability of having U.S. and UN inspectors on the ground and all that, that's all contingent on the willingness of a dictator like Saddam Hussein or the Ayatollah to agree to it. But when you have no air defenses in your country, and you have the U.S. regularly overflying your country with anything it wants, and targeting your water facilities, your power plants, your infrastructure, that's an enforcement mechanism that is hard to overcome. And I think that deal will be very enforceable.
Do you think that the people of Iran are going to rise up against this government? I don't see that either. That's why I'm asking you. Do you think that can happen?
I hope so, but I don't know.
They don't have weapons, right?
But the important point to bear in mind, well, they don't have weapons. At the moment, they don't have money or weapons.
Or water.
Because we've frozen their assets and we've cut off their oil sales.
That's the government.
But I think that there is some chance that Trump, once he has Iran neutralized by the threat of our airstrikes, may let them have some of their cash, which may permit them to fund their army in putting down demonstrations. Right now, the police force has no money, and we'll see if it continues. We have to wait and look at the text of the deal coming out later today.
Wow, I could see Trump in his deal saying, I'm not going to give you money. I'll send in troops to rebuild and to get water to your people. And I could see that happening, not giving them money. I don't see him.
We're not going to send in troops.
And I don't think he's going to send them money either.
Yeah.
I don't see that happen. I think he's going to say, if you don't want to get destroyed. But they don't care about their lives either. They're going to go to the 17 virgins or whatever, you know what I mean? So that's another thing you got to think about. Inflation outpaces earnings for a third straight month.
Now, this is bad news, and this is why Trump will do a deal later today.
Consumer inflation once again outpaced average weekly earnings for the third straight month, with prices pushing upwards by 0.47%, while earnings only grew at 0.32%, according to the latest data in the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Also, for the second month in a row, consumer prices outpaced earnings on an annual basis, with inflation up 4.2% in the past 12 months, while earnings increased only 3.7%.
Those statistics, more than anything else, is making Trump agree to a deal with Iran. But he's doing so on his terms because of his control of the air over Iran. But the inflation stuff is still driving him.
Wow. Democrat lead anti-Israel opinion shift. Opinions on the Middle East have turned against Israel in the wake of the Iran war, especially among Democrat voters. The latest Rasmussen Reports National Telephone in an online survey finds that 34% of likely U.S. voters say that, looking at the history of Israel and Palestine, they sympathize more with the Israelis, down from 42% in February, and a sharp decrease from 59%, so it's less in November.
So in November, Israel had 59%
now they
support.
have 42.
Now they have 42. No, now they have 34. So tremendous drop in Israeli sentiment.
The shift of the support from Israel to the Palestinians has been sharpest among Democrats. In November of 23, Democrats sympathized more with Israel by a 26-point margin, 48 to 22. Now Democrats favor Palestinians by 18-point margin. This is horrible. The Palestinians.
Yeah. It's part of what we've said in our earlier stuff. The voters of America have decisively turned in favor of Trump, and the Democrats are stuck with positions that they can't possibly win in an election. And the idea that the Democrats think that they're going to get elected by telling Americans to sympathize with the Palestinians as opposed to Israel is totally and completely crazy.
All right. Listen, we're going to take a break, and let's talk about, is inflation better than reported?
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This episode is brought to you by Starbucks.
That is fire. Whoa, that's good. This might be the drink of the summer. Okay, I like this one too. I'm rocking with it. Okay.
Try it for yourself. Starbucks Refreshers Concentrates are coming home. Find them in the coffee aisle and make it yours.
The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
How about we go to some phone calls here? How about Scott in Kentucky? Hi, Scott.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call, gentlemen. Today's President Trump's birthday, so I think it's most appropriate. He thinks he's going to get Iran as a birthday gift. We have no right to be fighting Iran. His being forced to fight this war for AIPAC, Zionist and Jewish.
No, that's
groups.
nonsense. Come on, look at
That's true.
the Iranian efforts at terrorism throughout the entire world, and look at Iran taking hostages back in 1958.
Yeah,
and the killing 258 Marines in the Marine barracks. And it's not even a question of the right to fight Iran. It's the obligation to fight Iran.
Yeah, right. That's
to stop
more
them
like
from
it.
developing nuclear weapons.
Right, the obligation. Well, I took him because he said Trump's birthday. So, and now I want to go to Sandra. Hi, Sandra. You like the segue?
Yes. You're funny. Well, I was going to talk about what Donald Trump's administration did. Do you know that in 2022, deaths from drugs were 112,000? They're down to 68,000, which is still a lot.
It's half,
question.
though.
But I wanted to say that Jan Ukelik interviewed Sarah Carter. Remember her, the drug czar? I learned from that interview that the U.S. feds, the investigators, they recently discovered a tunnel 55 feet underground between Mexico and California, and it's so sophisticated. It has electricity. It has a rail system where a little train goes by with all the drugs.
No.
A ventilator, reinforced walls.
Sounds like an airport.
And a complex hydraulic lift system. So this
Wow.
is very, very, and there's many more of them, like over 200 of these tunnels, but this one is the most sophisticated of all.
Well, the big reason that, hey, Sandra, thank you. The big reason that drug deaths in the U.S. have dropped so precipitously is not the enforcement of the DEA. It is not the brave agents risking their lives. That's all part of it. The biggest factor is the deportations. The United States has thrown 3 million people out of the country, 2.5 million, half voluntarily, 2 million thrown out. And they are the drug dealers. They are the people who are selling the drugs.
And they also know, the drug dealers, they're going to get caught. They can't come across like they used to come across. They got to find different ways. They're probably going to Canada, coming down, or who knows.
When we see these statistics about drugs, they are so impressive. They're so amazing. Trump has basically solved the drug problem in the United States, or is on the way to doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he did it was deportations.
And once again, this is going to be the theme of the day of the show. He doesn't bluff.
Yeah.
I'm going to arrest you. I'm going to deport you. I'm going to do it. That's it. It's not like so many presidents would say, here's the red line. Don't cross the red line.
Yeah,
They
right.
say red line in
Obama
the sand.
would keep his red line moving.
Somebody did a great skit. There's a red line, and then the guy jumped over and he drew another one. Here's the red line again. Don't jump over this one. Where are we,
Well,
Dick?
core inflation is not. Everybody says. I'm sorry. CNN has reported that inflation is increasing, and that's as a result of the Straits of Hormuz being closed and the oil situation being embargoed. Trump will solve that in a couple of minutes. But while we're looking at the data, we should realize that core inflation is not going up. Core goods prices actually fell in May. New vehicle prices fell. Used cars and trucks remain lower than a year ago. Grocery prices barely moved. Drug and dairy prices declined. Prescription drug prices are down over the past year. Motor vehicle insurance is finally down. And headline GNP rose because gasoline jumped. But core CPI came off better than expected. In fact, Trump has been very successful in dealing with inflation. And it's the Hormuz situation that has screwed it up, but that's coming to an end, I think, in a few minutes. I think when we go off the air, it'll become clear that Trump and Iran have a deal.
Core, when you say core, all the things you just mentioned, basically food, gas,
everything
the stuff you
except
need.
energy, basically.
Everything except energy.
Yeah.
Core.
The Supreme Court is set to decide as soon as this week whether states can accept mail-in ballots that arrive after Election Day in a case that could invalidate the so-called grace period in places like California. We've all watched amazed as the leads of Pratt and Hilton in California have disappeared and in Pratt's case vanished by mail-in voting. They were ahead on Election Day and they lost. But those are state races. This is federal. But the Supreme Court is about to rule that you may not count mail-in ballots that arrive after Election Day. The decision will come after enormous attention was paid across the country to the results in both the California governor's contest and the battle for mayor of L.A., where Republican candidate Spencer Pratt was overtaken by progressive communist crazy candidate Neitha Raman drawing outrage from Trump.
Ramen, isn't that the stuff you eat?
Yeah. At the center of the judicial debate is a Mississippi law that allows mail-in ballots to be counted so long as they are postmarked by when the polls close and received by election officials within 5 days afterwards. More than a dozen other states have similar rules, though deadlines differ. Challengers, including the Republican National Committee, argue that Mississippi's ballot deadline is preempted by a federal law that sets the Tuesday after the first Monday in November as Election Day for federal offices. The Supreme Court seemed poised to limit mail-in ballots after hearing oral arguments in late March, a ruling that could force California to change its vote counting rules just months before the midterm elections. California is one of multiple states that adopted universal mail-in voting following the COVID-19 pandemic, meaning that each of the state's roughly 23 million voters automatically receive a vote-by-mail ballot for the upcoming elections. Now, Trump has done two things. First of all, he's suing to invalidate that. But secondly, as we reported last week, he has instructed the post office to meet with each state and get a list from them of the people who could cast mail-in voting, and then to refuse to deliver mail to anybody who is not on that, anybody who wants to vote who's not on that list. So California has now refused to meet with the post office and has not refused to go along with it. The post office will probably then say, okay, California, we will not deliver any mail-in ballots in your state. That means California can't vote.
Hold on, but because I've never received a mail-in ballot, they know from the envelope it's a mail-in ballot?
Yeah,
okay,
right.
so they know
Yeah.
looking at it. Okay, got it.
That's right. And this is a huge test of wills between the post office and California. And
Who do you think's going to win?
Well, eventually the post office will, because they're the ones who actually have to make the delivery. And it's a federal service and a federal election, and I don't think the states will have the ability to
But you
counter
get
it.
some Democrat big shots at the post office that say, no, you're going to deliver this. That's where you're going to fight City Hall.
No, you're not. You're not there.
All right, good. I love it. Are you going to this next one? Trump's America is exporting and the trade deficit is shrinking. The latest trade report delivers a simple but powerful message. America is selling more to the world, importing more of what it needs to rebuild at home, and steadily shrinking the trade deficit. This is the unmistakable triumph of Trump tariff and tax policy. President Trump is the strategist who changed the battlefield. Somebody said to me last week, "Oh, I see when Dick fixes where whatever he says." I forget even what he said. It was funny. I said, "Thanks a lot, Dick." The weapons are familiar, but too long underused. Section 232 to defend critical industries from national security threats. Section 301 is to punish the predatory and unfair trade practices and hard-nosed renegotiation to replace one-sided trade terms with reciprocal ones. These negotiations include not just China, but a host of so-called allies that have grown fat on American market access while protecting their own markets, subsidizing their own industries, and running persistent surpluses against the United States. The old Washington consensus treated those arrangements as diplomacy. Trump correctly treats them as economic surrender, and he is reversing them now. The globalist intelligence people would rather treat everyday trade number as another excuse to recycle the same tired catechism. Tariffs.
Catechism.
Again.
If you were Catholic, you'd know that. Catechism.
Is it catechism? Is that the word? Are you finished? Would you please?
Tariffs bad, deficits inevitable, manufacturing gone forever. But the April numbers tell a very different story.
I'm very Catholic.
The overall U.S. trade deficit fell by $700 million in April to $555.9 billion, better than expectations. The goods deficit fell by an even stronger $2.4 billion. The composition of trade is moving in exactly the right direction. Exports of goods and services hit a record $327 billion in April. Goods exports alone reached a record $221 billion. That's what a productive economy does. Makes things, grows things, drills things, refines things, designs things, and sells them to the rest of the world. Exports are at record highs. Energy is a national strength again. Capital investment is feeding the factory floor, and America is beginning to look a lot less like a passive consumer market for the world and more like the industrial superpower it was always meant to remain.
It's kind of like where America's going to the gym.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. We're just getting stronger.
Well, yeah, but the important thing here is that the predictions of every economist in the world was that if you raise tariffs, you are screwing your economy. There's going to be retaliation. There's maybe going to be Great Depression. We're setting up a trade war with the world, and we're going to get totally screwed. And this now is so the opposite of what's happened.
How often has this happened under different presidents where they raised it this much? You know, is this the first time it's been this?
No, it's happened in 1929 on the Smoot-Hawley tariff, which was a very high tariff and is blamed for the Great Depression. And it was with the Smoot-Hawley tariff that economists all over the world said, stop tariffs, keep free trade. You got to have free trade. If you don't, you can't sell your products in a world market. You're limited to your domestic market, and that's too small. If you have a depression and your people can't buy goods, you can't sell your goods in international markets. Now that's changed completely. Trump has changed it totally. And people now realize that tariffs are very effective in ending discrimination, and that the real growth of American exports is not because of tariffs, it's not because of price, it's because of AI, because of our technology, because of what we're making and the strides we're doing in making it. And that is so equipping the United States economically that we're blowing through all these old rules, and Trump is leading the way in doing it.
I mean, it always seems as though Trump blows through old rules with everything he does right from the beginning.
Yeah, but the tariff thing is incredible. And, you know, you used to hear when Trump was raising the tariffs, everybody was saying, oh, no, you can't, it'll kill us. Then the Supreme Court ruled the tariff increase is illegal. And Trump said, no, I'll do it on this other law. And he used these two other laws.
Right.
And got all the tariffs he wanted approved. Now the noise has died. People are saying, okay, the tariffs really work. And to reset the global agenda.
Well, you know, I haven't heard from the businesses that really against it, and they're the ones that sued, because they said the tariffs, they have to hire their prices have to go up of all the things because they're buying.
There are a few industries that said that, and it's true. There are a few industries that were really hurt, and some of these have recovered in lawsuits. But the fact is that it is overwhelmed by the growth of the United States in the economy, the amount of new investment, the progress in AI. And the U.S. is absolutely leaving the rest of the world behind in economic competition.
It's a beautiful thing. Got to excuse me, I'm exhausted. Let's go to Jim in Connecticut. Hey, Jim. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
First-time caller, listener, a great show. Really appreciate you, too.
Thank you.
What I was calling about is a Trump supporter. I get it. I can't stand the left. I think they're insane. I don't know how anybody in their right mind could ever vote for a Democrat. Unfortunately, these people do. But here's where I see Trump's flaw. He has to stop saying, we're making a deal with Iran, over and over and over, and the deal falls through.
But wait 10 minutes.
Yeah, right. You hear what
10
Dick
minutes.
said? He said, wait 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And let's see. Listen, I'm the first one to say that they know how to stall. And a lot of people that want to have that, thing happen takes the stall for a week, a month. Trump is not going to let them stall. And if they do, we're going to find out tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out later
But
today.
he has to stop announcing that he's making a deal.
You can't tell him
When
to
it's
stop
done.
anything.
I think he just did.
Meaning that
Here's the other thing. I think he has to remove them, get the mullahs out. He can't lead those people.
I know.
We'd like to, but we can't.
I said
And
that too.
To do that would probably take an invasion. We're not prepared to do that.
Right.
But what he's done is to make it politically inert.
But didn't he open up a bar and they all do shots until they get
Yeah,
bombed?
right.
That's my line. People, you can use it. Just give me a little credit once in a while. He's
Thank
opening
you.
up a bar. They're all going to do shots until they get bombed.
When we come back, House Republicans clear a $37 billion immigration enforcement package.
Thank you, Jim.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hi, welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
I got a good call here, Dick. Andrew from New Jersey. This is interesting, Andrew. What do you got?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask what you guys think and if you could bring it to the boss, to Trump. During COVID, with the lockdowns, there were payments made directly from the government. If there could be some kind of reimbursement from the government, but paid through reparations from Iran for higher
Good.
gas prices.
That's such a great question. What Trump is going to do is that he will insist that Iran make reparations payments, probably not to American consumers, but certainly to the Gulf states that Iran has attacked. And Trump is using that to build a global coalition of all the Gulf states, Bahrain, Yemen, all of them now aligning with the United States against Japan, Saudi Arabia. And I think that he's going to do that. And I think that will be the step before he gets the Abraham Accords signed by everybody.
Interesting.
But I think reparations are coming. I think that is a great point.
Thank you, Andrew. He's done that many times where he took oil from this country and used it.
Like Venezuela.
Right. What is the story with that, by the way? Venezuela, him taking oil, cutting off Cuba.
Has.
Where are we at on all of this?
Cutting off Cuba hasn't happened. They've cut off Cuba, but it hasn't taken effect yet. It hasn't really screwed up Cuba completely. They still are slightly alive.
I want him not to do anything until after the midterms. Why go into Cuba and do anything where you're going to get 50% of people bitching and moaning, look what he did, and then you get a couple of other people not liking it. Leave it until November 10th. You know what I mean? Then
But we are seizing Venezuelan oil.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's helping keep oil prices down in the United States.
And is some of the money going to the Venezuelan people at all?
Yes.
See, that's the thing.
But in Venezuela, the real thing is that he's got to hold elections. You can't just have toppled Maduro and use his vice president, Rodriguez.
The woman, right? Was that the woman?
The woman, to keep power. Trump likes her, thinks he's been compliant, but he's got to go ahead with elections.
Mm-hmm. He's got Dick Morris to help him out down there.
The House passed nearly $70 billion package on Tuesday to fund ICE and Border Patrol for 3 years. Following the collapse of negotiations to restrict the Trump administration enforcement tactics, Republicans harnessed the party-line budget reconciliation process to pass legislation funding ICE and Border Patrol without Democratic votes. The end result is the enactment of supercharged budgets for both agencies and a guarantee that they'll be funded well beyond the end of the Trump presidency. The other thing is that when this comes to the Senate, he's going to use the threat to remove the parliamentarian to get the SAVE Act to be included in that bill. And I think he's going to be successful in doing that.
If he gets this bill to fund ICE, another president comes in, hopefully our guys, but another one of our enemies come in. Can they defund it?
Yeah, but only after 3 years. He's passed the budget not for this year, but for 3 years now for ICE. He said, I'm not only going to appropriate money for you in 26, but in 27, 28, and 29.
Can a president that comes in, when is the next election? 28?
28.
So in 29, if there's funding in the coffer,
it would require a majority.
Is that how it has? That's what I'm asking you. How does that?
I don't think as a practical matter it could happen. Trump has taken immigration funding out of the legislative process for 3 years now. Very, very significant.
That's what I needed to know. How can they pluck that away? Another president. And where are we going?
Now, Trump has targeted CUNY, City University of New York, over racism allegations as it takes aim at DEA programs.
The Trump administration is investigating the City University of New York over allegations of racial discrimination. The agency's civil rights arm said it received reports alleging CUNY's Black Male Initiative gives preference to some students over others on the basis of race. Race can never play a role when deciding how to distribute educational resources or opportunities. That's Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon said in a statement. I like her. This Justice Department will not tolerate universities directing educational benefits to certain students over other based on their race. Good for them. It has to be. Enough.
Now, we haven't talked much about the Ukraine-Russia war, but in the last few weeks, there has been increasing evidence that Ukraine is winning that war and that Russia is losing it. The retired U.S. generals say, the top Ukraine commander says over 230 square miles have been retaken from Russian forces by Ukrainian forces. Several retired U.S. generals and former director of a U.S. intel agency told the news that they believe Ukraine now has the upper hand in the war with Russia.
Wow, that's great.
Ukraine's top general said last week the army has retaken 232 square miles from Russia so far this year. I would assess operationally Ukraine is winning in the context that they are defeating enemy operational objectives, creating conditions for follow-on operations, and preserving freedom of action. The two generals agreed, stressing the view that on the front lines, Ukraine was outmaneuvering Russia. Military experts said that a key factor in driving Ukraine's recent success is evolution of its mid-range drone strike capabilities. Ukraine has developed an effective arsenal of short-range personal view drones.
First-person view.
Yeah.
In other words, the guy on the stick.
Look on the ground.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That now caused more than 90% of Russian casualties.
Wow. This is
so
unbelievable.
That's a guy sitting in someplace.
A joystick, like the kids doing video games.
And he's looking through the viewfinder and he's seeing what the drone is seeing and uses it to kill Russians.
Well, I just got an image of a guy going into his sunroom while he's playing video games and said, "Hey, how do you do that? And then he learns from his son how to shoot these things down."
Well, you know how drones were developed, I told you.
Yes.
The head of Israel's intelligence went to
off the mountain.
Went to FAO Schwartz, and he saw drones. He saw drones being sold, kids' toys.
It's little helicopters.
Little helicopters.
Yeah.
They say, hey, we could put cameras on those and use them.
Right. That's unbelievable.
Zelensky said that Ukraine has also effectively deployed long-range cruise and drone missiles that have targeted recently military bases in St. Petersburg, more than 600 miles from Ukraine's borders. So Ukraine is winning the war, which is absolutely crucial.
Let's go to George in Rockland County. This is going to go against Dick Morris. That's why I'm having him. Hi, George.
How you doing, guys? So, sorry, I generally agree with Dick and you, but I like to indicate that I'm a very big Trump supporter. I really mean it here. But when it comes to Iran, there's no doubt about it. Trump blew it, and he blew it in a big, big way. Okay, he had them down on the floor. They were destroyed. Okay. And then he started with this, well, you know, we have to negotiate. We have to here, we have to there.
Yeah, but wait.
Let me finish talking.
Let him finish. Okay, go. Okay.
But your call is too soon. Later today, there's going to be a deal made. And that deal is going to stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons. It's going to turn nuclear materials over to the United States to be neutralized.
Yeah.
And it's going to be enforced by the American planes flying over
But I want to
Iran.
I want to hear, George. So what do you have to say? What do you think he should have done? Real quickly, because we got to get off the air.
Okay, no problem. Okay, now listen, Dick, I respect you a lot, okay, but you're wrong, okay? It's clearly American generals which were interviewed, not one, many said that the time was to destroy Iran in the beginning. The Iran, IRG were on the ground here, okay? All the top people were destroyed and killed here. Unfortunately, you have to use boots on the ground. I know people hate
it's not going to happen.
Of course, you don't want to hear it, okay? But that's.
I want to hear it. It's not going to happen. He's not going to do it.
You don't need to when you control the airspace. You don't need to when you can bomb anytime you want, anywhere you want. And you're going to see how effective that is going to be. Just stay tuned for a couple of days.
Yeah, plus, George, we do have to take a hard break right now. But thank you. I appreciate
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. The post office will stop delivering mail-in ballots to states that don't hand over their voter rolls. And California just announced it's not going to hand it over. The post office has proposed a new rule pushing states to turn over mail-in and absentee voter rolls to the agency, a move in line with President Trump's March executive order tightening regulations on mail-in voting in federal elections. Since the start of his second term, Trump has made election integrity and security a central issue, signing multiple orders to require proof of citizenship and crack down on mail-in voting fraud, essentially establishing a national voter verification system. As the battle plays out in court, the post office has followed the White House order that the agency propose a rule outlining a method for each state and postal carrier to agree on a list of voters eligible to receive mail-in and absentee voters and how the mail-in voters should be packaged. The proposed rule would create a mail-in absentee participation list in line with Trump's request. The state would first submit to the U.S. Postal Service a list of voters who are submitting mail-in ballots for that election, along with each voter's personalized barcode. Then the U.S. Post Office would return a final mail-in and absentee participation list to each state's chief election officer. Voters who receive mail-in or absentee ballots must be included on this list. Mail-in and absentee participation list marking a significant change in rules and regulations for mail-in and absentee voting.
Okay, cut to the chase. What did you just say?
It means that mail-in voting is now going to be regulated.
That's it.
You'll have to say in advance who's going to be voting by mail-in, and only those people will receive ballots. You can't just mass mail them out.
That's it. This has taken 60 years. Really, like no one wanted to touch it, and now it's getting touched. Anyway, drug prices fall for the third straight month. This is great. Drug prices fell for the third straight month in May, delivering measurable evidence that President Trump's push to lower costs at the pharmacy counter is working, according to the government data on Wednesday. Prescription drug prices declined almost 10% in May, bringing the 3-month cumulative decline to 3.39% since February. Over the past year, prescription prices are down 2%. Over-the-counter medications fell almost 1% in May for the third-month cumulative drop of 2.68% and a year-over-year decline of 2.5%. The sustained decreases mark a notable shift in a category that has long frustrated consumers and policymakers alike. Lowering drug prices has been a central promise of the Trump administration, which has pursued a most favored nation pricing strategy aimed at ending the practice by which other wealthy nations pay substantially less for the same medications than America. Dick, talk about most favored nation pricing strategy.
Yeah, that says that a drug company has to charge the American consumer the lowest price it charges anybody else anywhere in the world. And that ends the policy that they've had of letting the U.S. develop the drug and then jacking up the price for Americans and lowering it for people.
So
in
we
other
spend
countries.
all our money in research, develop
We
it,
develop
and everything.
the drug, and
right.
then everybody gets it for
Which could
cheap.
be hundreds of millions to billions of dollars to develop it, and then got it. All right, so I needed to hear that. That's so interesting.
SNAP benefits, food stamps, are reported to have gone to 186,000 dead people.
Could you believe that?
186,000 dead people in 29 states are receiving food stamps, costing $400 billion.
Dead stop.
On May 21st, a federal grand jury convicted a man who stole the identity of Carlos Ramon Obregon, who was killed in a 1977 L.A. drive-by shooting. Decades after his death, the defendant used the dead teen's identity to collect about $283,000 in food stamps. So, taking coupons from dead people.
Hey, if you can't do it to your friends, who can you do it to?
Yeah,
that's
right.
like, listen, we're all starving. If I die, you could eat me. You could use me. Thank you, Dick Morris.
This has
It's an
been a
honor
great show.
to be on the show. And thank you, Roxana, for On the Rocks. Thank you. And happy Flag Day.
Yeah, and happy Trump's birthday.
And happy birthday to the boss.
Can you believe he's 80 years old?
80 years old, you
Doesn't
old
act like
mother.
Thanks for listening to The Dick Morris Show. You can hear The Dick Morris Show Sundays at noon. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?